Hi, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐶 TV live from Sydney. This is the last trade. Let's get started with today's market close commentary. Well, the Australian share market is set to close higher on Friday, snapping two session losses led by gains in materials, bank and minor stocks. The market recouped some of the losses triggered by rate hike concerns after US President Joe Biden announced more stimulus in the form of $1 trillion in an infrastructure deal. However, rising COVID-19 cases and lockdown measures capped the day's gains. The ASX 200 was trading higher by 37.10 points or 0.51%. The index gained as much as 0.6% to hit an intraday high of 7,322 after making a positive start. Overall, the benchmark has declined as much as 0.77% in the past 5 sessions. And now, if we have to talk about sector-specific performance on the sectoral front, 7 of 11 sectoral indices were trading in green. The utility sector was the top performer with a 0.9% gain, followed by materials, which surged 0.8%. Then utilities, consumer discretionary, AREITs and industrials trading higher with modest gains. Bucking the trend, consumer staples, healthcare, energy and IT were among the top laggards. Australian gold stocks AXGD added up to 4% after bullion prices steadied post-dipping overnight while awaiting US inflation data. Gold miner Chalice Mining Limited is the top gainer, while Red 5 Limited, Northern Star Resources and Newcrest Mining were also trading higher. In a similar trend, Aussie miners AXMM jumped as much as 1.6%, posting the 4th consecutive session of gains on Friday. The Australian mining sub-index takes cues from Chinese coke futures that jumped on Thursday on fears of tighter supply amid environmental curbs. Sector heavyweights BHP Group and Rio Tinto were among the top gainers. And in the banking space, all Big Four lenders, Westpac Banking Corp, Commonwealth Bank, Australia and New Zealand Banking Group and National Australia Bank Limited are trading higher. And now, before I share more trending updates, it is time for a small break. Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With 𝐊𝐶 TV. Welcome back, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐶 TV live from Sydney. This is the last trade. We were discussing the Australian shares that are in the news today. But before I move on to the share market updates, I have some latest news that looks concerning. Well, Sydney is about to go into lockdown after New South Wales recorded 22 new locally acquired cases of COVID-19 today. The lockdown will begin at midnight and is estimated to affect more than 1 million people who live or work in the 4 Sydney local government areas. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian says that the ultra-infectious Delta COVID-19 variant has been spreading through Sydney for over a week. And while health authorities have been able to trace all but one new infection, at a press conference on Wednesday morning, the Premier said she did not want to burden residents unless she absolutely had to, but would not rule out further action. And now let's zoom our lens on over to the stocks that are in the news today. First up, shares of Australian travel agency companies were trading on a mixed note as Sydney, the country's most populous city, continued to grapple with an outbreak of a highly contagious Delta variant. while Flight Centre Travel Group shares are trading marginally. Webjet stocks float in rand. And now moving on to the next news, shares of educational course provider Red Hill Education dropped as much as 5% to 75 Australian cents on ending discussions with UCW Limited on a takeover bid. The company stated it had ceased discussions with peer UCW in a takeover bid for the company, as parties could not reach a mutually acceptable agreement. And now to look at the next news, buy now, pay later stock Afterpay extended gains for a second session and rose up to 1.5%. As the session high of $132.50, the fintech firm is up 43% in June, driven by a rise in bond yields and worries around interest rate hikes, seeing global growth stocks fall. The BNPL player said this week that it will allow users to shop at 13 major US merchants, and it has not partnered with, a move that will boost sales and margins. And on to the next stock, engineering company 𝐿𝐴NCo Limited fell as much as 2.8% to 53 cents after the company lowered revenue guidance for this year. The company said it expects FY21 revenue to be between $163 to $165 million versus the $178.1 million last year. The company has also lowered the projection for net profit before tax. 𝐿𝐴NCo said the decline is due to lower than expected cyclical demand from some major customers. The demand is mostly affected by adverse weather and disruptive rail network events in the second half of financial year 21. And now, before I share more trading updates, it's time for another small break. Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With 𝐊𝐴N TV. Welcome back, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐴N TV live from Sydney. This is the last trade. We are discussing the Australian shares that are in the news today. WiseWay Group jumped as much as 5.5% to 29 cents on US expansion plan. The freight logistics operator said that from July it will commence operations in the US with a new branch based in Los Angeles. The new US route will allow the company to extend operations to new shipping destinations. And shares of family-owned Cyber Safety Limited jumped as much as 6% to 63 cents on potential acquisition of education tech provider NetRef. FamilyZone, which operates a platform for parents to monitor child behavior and mobile content, said it signed a non-binding letter of intent to buy US-based NetRef, a classroom management technology business. The company stated deal for estimated consideration is worth around $4.3 million, which would be funded via the $23 million capital raising. And on to the next news, base metals explorer Aeon Metals rose as much as 5.5% to 8 cents after the company named Fred Hess as the new managing director and CEO, effective Friday. Hess has been the interim managing director and CEO since March. And now to the next stock. Shares of uranium explorer GTI Resources increased 16% to 2.6 cents on progress in the Utah project. The company stated uranium drilling has started on its Henry Mountains uranium vanadium project in Utah. And River Resources has announced it has signed an offtake agreement with leading global commodity producer and trader Glencore International AG for gold concentrate produced at its Hillgrove gold mine in New South Wales. Multi-asset operating business focused on base and precious metals, RVR has started gold production from Baker's Creek stockpile material in December of last year and will sell 100% of gold concentrate produced at Hillgrove to Glencore under the offtake agreement. Red River trucked its first load of gold concentrate from Hillgrove on the 18th of June. Commissioning activities at Hillgrove are progressing, stated as the ASX announcement. Meanwhile, shares of aviation company PTB Group rose 2.9% to 70.5 Australian cents after the company struck a deal to acquire the assets of the United Turbine from Continental Aerospace Technologies. And while this was happening, gold miner Ngambie Resources shared gains after the company, along with Golden Camel Mining, applied for a permit to construct gold toll treatment plant. The companies seek to construct and operate a 180,000 tonne per annum gold toll treatment plant at the Ngambie mine in the state of Victoria. And again, it is time for another small break, but stay with us and we'll be back in just a moment. Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With 𝐊𝐴𝐺𝐻 TV. Hi, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐴𝐺𝐻 TV live from Sydney. This is the last trade. Let's keep going with the Australian shares that are in the news today. Huon Aquaculture Group Limited gained as much as 7.1% to $2.880, hitting its highest since the 1st of February. The salmon producer stated its strategic review, which kicked off in February due to unsolicited approaches, and it remains ongoing. And lithium producer Pilbara Minerals has reported that it had taken further significant steps towards growing spodumene concentrate production at its Pilgangoora project in WA. Meanwhile, the share price of semiconductor memory technology developer Weebit Nano soared 13.3% at $1.80 Australian. The company shared that it had developed the industry's first ever commercial assimilation of an oxide-based ReRAM cell with an ovonic threshold switching selector. Quite the mouthful there. And another stock that needs attention is property investment and funds management firm Charter Hall, which has provided an update on property reevaluations and the resultant impact on group funds under management. The group's FUM platform will generate gross valuation increases of $3.3 billion, which will result in forecast group FUM rising around $52 billion as of June 30. So massive predictions there, and onto the Asian markets, which continue to trade higher after making a positive start on Friday and tracking overnight gains from Wall Street. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was the top performer in the region, rising as much as 1.15%. And Taiwan's weighted index climbed 0.85%, followed by Japan's Nikkei, which rose 0.7%. Seoul's Kospi gained 0.4%, and in a similar trend, China's Shanghai Composite was trading higher by 0.8%, while New Zealand's benchmark S&P, NZX, and India's BSE Sensex traded flat with a positive bias. Meanwhile, Wall Street ended higher in the overnight trade. Blue chip S&P 500 and tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite closed at all-time highs after US President Joe Biden announced more stimulus in the form of $1 trillion of an infrastructure deal with a bipartisan group of senators. The S&P 500 ended 0.58% higher, the Dow Jones rose 0.95% and the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.69%. Well, that is just about all for now, but stay tuned for more live market updates on across economies, markets and sectors. We'll be back next week with more live shows.